For as long as man has walked, little earth has been an ancient place. And yet, as soon as the first steps were taken by the humans, little earth's deep roots began to unravel. The fate of little earth was decided long before any of its inhabitants walked among its mossy knolls and dew-covered leaves, long before even the winds awoke for the first time. But the inhabitants remained oblivious, focusing only on the matters inside their own world. This is not to say that the matters they focused on were of no importance to them, or anyone else who would live on this planet. In fact, things set in motion in Little Earth long ago still affect us today. The things of Little Earth were not passive, no. They could not be mistaken for neglectful. However, some things managed to slip by even their most attentive and shrewd denizens. Things that would accelerate the destined downfall of Little Earth to a point of near extinction. When man first appeared in Little Earth, little heed was paid. The inhabitants had seen numerous creatures of all shapes and sizes live and die during their long reign, and very rarely had these creatures posed a threat. Even when they had, the ancient roots of Little Earth had been strong enough to ward off the enemies. So for a long time, they gave the humans no attention. At first, the humans merely passed through the land, occasionally stopping to examine some of its natural wonders, but never interacting with anyone from inside. The world of the humans and the world of Little Earth remained separate. Due to this separation, most of the inhabitants of Little Earth remained oblivious to the rapid growth of man, and those who tried to speak of it were cast aside or shamed. Choosing to neglect information about their quickly growing neighbors was a grave mistake. But then again, their mistake was understandable. The very first men that walked through Little Earth were no bigger than the saplings of the oak trees that grew on the outskirts of the ryewood forest. They had no way of knowing that the humans would grow to the size of the very oldest trees in the wood. Perhaps it was the increasing tensions in Little Earth due to the Second Great Worm War. Perhaps it was the rising of the ancient leaves. Perhaps it was simply fate. But when the first humans began living inside the borders of Little Earth, not much fuss was made. And once the first ones came, slowly but surely, over the next 100 years, more arrived. The year was 6018 ASW, after the sleeping of the winds, when the first altercation arose between the natural inhabitants of Little Earth and the humans who had moved into the land. While it may have went relatively unnoticed by most, as soon as the humans began living inside Little Earth, the bones of the land began to grow more and more weary. When the spring came round, very little grew. Rainfall was a rarity. The sun beat down upon the fields of Little Earth, drying them up and causing the land to crack and break. But talk of wars and of things long asleep that were now awakening kept the creatures of Little Earth busy, noticing less of what they would usually see. Time passed, and the land only grew more tired. But there was one place in Little Earth that seemed to have been frozen in the past, in a time before the humans ever walked on the planet, long before even the first of the great worm wars. The place was known as the White Meadow, a long strip of flat land enclosed on either side by forest, with grass growing from corner to corner. It was said that as long as the grass in the White Meadow grew, Little Earth would live on. But the grass that grew in the meadow was not like any grass growing anywhere else in Little Earth. It was grass blown on by the winds that emanated with a white glow when daylight struck it. Many used to say that the White Meadow at midday was truly a sight to behold. Great banquets used to be thrown on its grass, celebrating ancient kings and victories of times now forgotten. But it had been years since any large group had gathered on the lawn. The White Meadow had become a place of silence and solitude. Very few creatures paid it visit, and those who did were often forgotten, sometimes on purpose. Although the surrounding land had become overgrown and difficult to navigate, the meadow itself seemed untouched by time. It grew and grew, remaining as radiant as it had ever